My process of converting to Islam was long, it took 20 years. It started when I was 12. I went to a school very expensive, very Anglophilic, and we had to wear uniforms. Different criteria for grades, etc. It was in a class we were in studying the world's major religions, Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Buddhism and Hinduism, each being presented in booklet format, which my fascination with Islam began. I don't know why, but my first impression of the Muslims was that they were not hypocrites like the Christians he knew. I remember of two things that really stood out. 1. The focus being only on God. That was very important to me, because for as long as I can remember, I've had questions about the doctrinal aspects of Christianity, especially the points that talked about Jesus being God. For me, this contradicted the first commandment. The second item that stood out were the Salat, prayers. Not only praying 5 times a day, but as a way to most prayers focused on worshiping God alone. In Christianity, our prayers tended to be prayer requests, i.e., God give me this. God give me that. I went to university in Washington, D.C., which had a very large Muslim population. My interest in the Islam still continued, though it was too timid to openly seek a deeper understanding of it. Instead, I was satisfied with what I was doing. Called it walking through mosques, which was simply driving around the Islamic center on Mass Avenue, although it was too shy to enter. Someday I called to see if they had classes for people interested in Islam, but they didn't. I got a call back. I bought a copy of the Quran and started reading it. It was surprising. It went straight to my heart, you know? The thing that most amazing about Islam from the beginning, were the rights given to women. I know that many people today would laugh at me for such a statement, but as someone would Allah the Bible, I saw the rights given to women in Islam that were never given to women in the Bible. Women were given the right to refuse a partner for marriage, whereas in typical Western Christian culture in the at the time, 600 CE, women were seen primarily as the property of their parents to be married in the way he saw fit. They had the guarantee of a share in the inheritance of her father and husband, while in the West that inheritance typically went to the eldest son. Women had the right to own property and enter into contracts, a right that women have given us. The United States did not get it until the middle of the 19th century. The Prophet Muhammad, may the mercy and blessings of God be upon him, preached against female infanticide, a common practice at the time and which is still a problem in India and China. Clear today it is a high-tech female infanticide, abortions done after an ultrasound to determine the sex of the child. Men and women are alerted to seek knowledge from the cradle to the grave. Unfortunately, the culture seems to interfere with some of these rights today. During my senior year, I found a Dawah program on TV called Islam. It featured an anchor Western-looking female interviewing people on various topics related to Islam. I think it was prepared by the information service Islamic, but I'm not sure. I was totally addicted to this program and I adjusted my VCR to record it if I had to leave. I don't remember how channel was. Only that it aired on Fridays and that each program began with, "In the name of God, the most merciful, the merciful." When the Shahada program came up, knowing that I believed, and so I did my Shahada with my TV. Unfortunately, I didn't know Muslims to talk to about Islam. It was very worried about what my friends and family would think. Sometime after the graduation, I think it was 1990 or 1991, the Saudi embassy sponsored an exhibition of Islamic art in the city center. I remember asking one of the exhibitors if they had any additional information about Islam, and the young man I said, "No." I was devastated. I didn't know where or who to turn to learn more about Islam and have my questions answered. I was very shy to enter a mosque. I didn't even know if I could go, being a woman. I didn't know if she was dressed appropriately or if she was the only person who did not speak Arabic there. I continued reading my Quran and asking God the questions, waiting for God to answer my prayers. My hunger for God did not cease, and so I decided to adopt a more conventional religion. I became a Christian for a time during the half of my 20s. The problem was that I always had questions, doubts in relation to Christianity, especially on the concept of Trinity, divinity of Jesus. Jesus as God does not. It made sense to me because it went against the first commandment and what the Jesus himself seemed to practice. He always focused on God the Father, so say. When asked, he said that the greatest commandment was to love your Lord God with all your heart, with all your soul and with all your strength. God unique. This is something I have always been committed to doing and I hope to improve. I asked a few different pastors about my doubts and the answer I received was, you just have to have faith. I remember that in a class of Bible study this man began to tell all those lies about Muslims. I objected and said, that's not true, and began to tell people in my Sunday school about what Muslims really do believed. Even then he could not deny the Shahada. He continued to believe that there was only one God and that Muhammad was the prophet of God. While in the graduate school in Tennessee, contacted the Muslim Student Association in the campus. Two sisters met me at a local bakery for tea. Unfortunately, they did not understand that I wanted to convert and the whole meeting was very bizarre. I decided that I would continue to consider myself a monotheist and I considered myself to be a monotheist closed. I read about all the major monotheistic beliefs, Judaism, Islam, and Christianity. However, I became increasingly uncomfortable with the Christianity. If it was the church and there was a crucifix on the wall, it would be bothered. It looked like an idol that people were worshipping. I learned more about Judaism and found that I was the closest to Islam. I joined the current company almost 2 years. Coincidentally, during my resource orientation, there was a boy with whom he would work a lot there. It worked for me on many projects and we became friends. He had just left the university and was a rebel. I asked him many questions. How could he drinking if he was a Muslim? I even threatened to tell his mother. I also asked him why didn't he go to the Jummah prayer, Friday, etc. Over the course of a year I realized that, in talking to him, I was actually talking to myself. Just for clarify, I never drank. So, around last February I went to class to new Muslims at the local Islamic center on a Wednesday night and to my surprise, there was no one there. I was about to go home, but one of the brothers kept saying, just wait for Isha, the evening prayer. The Imam, religious leader, will be here. Even if we try to stay and wait, I was a little uncomfortable and so I left. 4 weeks then I tried again and to my satisfaction there was a class in progress that night. First said the Shahada in DC in front of the TV and now, then 10 to 11 years old, was saying again in front of the Imam, a Muslim sister and a lot of people interested in Islam. Since that time I have learned to pray, something I had been trying to teach myself through the web and videos for years. And I began to study Arabic. Inshallah, God willing, one day I will be able to read and understand the Quran in Arabic. I'm totally amazed for now I can read some parts of the Quran even though my vocabulary does not allow me to understand a lot, still. Monday, October 8, 2001, was a day important in my life as a Muslim as well. I wore the hijab, the scarf that covers the head of the Muslim, for the first time to work, as part of the handkerchiefs for the Solidarity campaign. It was the celebrity at work. People walked up to the door of my office, since I had posted articles about scarves for solidarity, and also a note about Islam on my doorstep. People would ask me, "Are you one of them?" Or, "Are you a Muslim?" I said, "Yes, so now come out of the Muslim closet in the work." I think people just assumed that a blonde-eyed person the blues could not be Muslim. The main question people ask is, like you, an educated American woman converts to Islam, a religion that oppresses women? They quickly equate women's rights in Afghanistan with the rights of Muslim women everywhere else. Basically, what I say is that the Quran gives women many more rights than the Bible. This was one of the things that first attracted me to Islam.